Hey, this is James from All Hail Internal Combustion. I wanted to throw a little video together on this Dodge 4.7 block that we got. This is a parts block that we needed the oil pan and the pickup tube off of for a pickup truck we're working on for a friend of ours because they just dropped a Jeep motor into his truck and didn't change the oil pan, and now the motor doesn't fit right. So that's why we took this apart. And I decided to take this thing even more far apart because it's going to end up getting scrapped. I'll make more money by pulling the heads off of it and the timing cover and everything else. But honestly, I've never worked on one of these things before. So I wanted to have a look inside of it to see what it was all about. Some things I'm impressed with. Some things I find silly, but I guess it's that way on pretty much every block. The timing cover on this thing is huge, and it's got the water pump, the water necks, thermostat housing, all built into one piece, and that's nice heavy aluminum, so that's pretty cool. I thought maybe when I pulled that off there would be a plate behind it to hold all the gears and chains, but it's that right to the internal front of the engine. And there's the oil pump, slips over top of the crankshaft, kind of reminds me of the Civic motor we worked on, the D series Honda engines, where it fits over top of there and there's a couple flat spots, so that's where your oil pump lives. And on top of the oil pump there, see it over there, there's a set of guides that guide your chain and all that, and there's some tensioners in here because this thing has single overhead cam on it, 2 heads, so we've got these holes that the timing chains run up into, and then there's a master timing chain that goes between the crankshaft and this, I guess that would be like a dummy shaft that's in there that lets everything run and keeps timing in the motor. A lot of motors are like that. At least they didn't do the dumb Ford thing where they decided, oh, we're going to put timing chains in the front and in the back of the engine, because that was truly a dumb idea that found a friend. As far as block construction goes, I mean, this thing feels pretty heavy. I don't know how heavy it is compared to an old small block Ford or even a Chrysler LA series engine, but seems pretty heavy. I did find it interesting though that this entire lower girdle assembly that goes into the mains is all cast in one big piece. So this is basically a crankshaft stud girdle that's held in there with a bunch of bolts, and then you've got bolts that go up into the block. I would assume the bottom ends of these motors, as long as they're not contaminated with metal debris the way this thing seems to have been, should be pretty much bulletproof. If any of you guys own one of these engines, let me know. I'm not exactly sure what took this engine out of service, because I thought it might have been a head gasket blown because it had a lot of block sealer in it, and there's signs of a lot of possible water leaking, but that could have been where the exhaust manifolds go to, so I'm not exactly sure about that. But this thing seems to have a pretty hardcore bottom end on it. The heads were held on with 10 head bolts, the way a small block Ford would be. 302, 351, 260, 289. Except there's a couple parts where the heads extend here. 2 bolts here that go into the top of the block for coolant passages, and then there's a couple hidden down in there that hold it on to the end of the block. I thought that was a bit weird. I don't know if they're prone to leaking in this area. If they are, let me know. I mean, it's not like I'm going to run out and buy one of these engines and put it in something and go crazy. I just like to learn stuff. I'm 53 years old. I tend not to mess around with newer vehicles because I don't like how tight everything is, and I think they really over design things, but sometimes that could be for the better. The heads seem to be have really healthy ports on them, so I assume this engine probably breathes pretty good. Looks like it has pretty big intake valves on it for the size engine it is. Exhaust valves look kind of small to me. And like I said, it is an overhead cam engine. And of course, like I've seen in a lot of overhead cam engines, your cams, if you get a little contamination in there, they will absolutely chew the heads to shreds. And I looked, and it is possible to get these things machined, but I think they're more considered like a disposable part. So if you've got roach cams and roached heads, I guess they just want you to hop on out and break out that old checkbook or debit card or credit card or whatever and go buy you a whole brand new bunch of everything, or buy a remanufactured engine. I've heard that some machine shops can do this kind of work, but they're saying a lot of machine shops don't have the capability with a small enough boring bar to go in here, re-weld them, and then have to line bore the heads again. And to me, man, that seems like it would be really expensive. But I don't know what a new set of these heads might cost. Maybe they're cheap, maybe they're expensive. I don't know. But I'm just about done pirating this motor. I'm not going to take the stud girdle off of it and pull the crank and the pistons and all that. This is all pretty much just steel and iron weight, which is all one price. The aluminum stuff will get me another price, and I'll throw all the silly little incidentals in with that. I did get a fair amount of nuts and bolts in case we're going to need them for when we actually work on the truck, because I think there's going to be quite a few nuts and bolts that are missing. So that's why I made sure to save these, and I'll throw them in a drawer somewhere and keep them for the future, because you never know. All this newer stuff seems to run the same metric threads, but it's kind of weird on this particular block because the bell housing bolts were 3/8, regular 3/8, I think 3/8 16 coarse thread standard bolts, and everything else on here is metric one form or another. I mean, this is a 2000s engine. Everything should be metric, or everything should be standard. Make up your mind. Stop playing games. I'm tired of looking for tools. But that's my opinion on this 4.7 engine. I mean, it seems like it was designed okay. Seems like it's pretty heavy duty. I don't know how long they last. So, y'all tell me. You got experience, let me know. And one thing I did notice, the crankshaft position sensor back there looks like it's relatively easy to get to. I don't know about when it's in the car and it's got the four-wheel drive unit all hooked up. Might be a pain in the butt. And there's the sprocket for the crankshaft position sensor. It had me a little confused though, because there was only one cam position sensor in this thing, and it has two cams. So to me, you're not feeding the computer all the information that maybe it should have. I realize it's odd for one cam to stretch a little bit more than another one, but it is possible, and then your engine's kind of out of phase that way, and it seems like that would be something they would want the computer to know about. But on this particular engine, nah, not worried about it. But this is James from All Hail Internal Combustion, with a big old heap of parts heading to the scrapyard. Like and subscribe. It's free. And I will see you all on the next one.